So, hello dear colleagues, thanks for clicking. Today we are going to talk about planning your lesson easy and efficiently. I suppose it might be useful for you because planning is a crucial part of our teaching practice, which is quite challenging for many teachers, especially novice ones. So to begin with, keep in mind that your lesson should be driven by aim, not by the list of activities you are suggesting in the book or you have found elsewhere, not by anything else, by the aim. And the aim should be SMART. The abbreviation is quite familiar, so I'll just give a quick reminder of what it means. Your aim is to be specific, which means rather narrow. Yeah. On the other hand, it should also be measurable, which means you have to have the tools to check and record the progress. The easiest example is, of course, a kind of short test in the end. Next, the lesson should be attainable, which is you can achieve it in a set time limit. For instance, if you set your aim as students will have learned the MPF of the passive voice in all tenses and practice it, such an aim would definitely be not attainable within a 45-minute lesson. Next thing, the aim should be relevant, which means it should support your long-term objectives and your general values. And finally, it's time-based, which implies ambitious and realistic time limit. For instance, if you set the aim as the student will have prepared for the CAE exam for a 1-month course, that's definitely not realistic. On the other hand, if you set the aim such as students will have learned the MPF of present perfect statements for a 90-minute lesson, this is definitely not ambitious enough. So, to talk about aims, we need to revise the two forms they are usually formulated. Yeah, we either use infinitive like to teach or to show, etc., or we use future perfect. Students will have learned, students will have practiced, etc. On the sideways, I'd like to define this abbreviation MPF, which some of you might not be familiar with, and which means meaning, pronunciation, and form of a certain grammatical structure or lexical set. So when we talk about aims, we must keep in mind the concept of skills and systems. So as you hopefully remember, there are receptive and productive skills, oral and written skills. So when we receive the information orally, that's called listening. When we receive the written information, it's definitely reading. When we produce something orally, it's speaking. When we receive in the written form, that's writing. Another thing, another half of the language, I would say, is systems. There are also 4 of them. Grammar, including tenses, gerund infinitives, and all that stuff. Vocabulary, words, fixed expressions, collocations, phrasal verbs, and all that thing. Phonology, which includes separate sounds, intonation, and stress. And functions, which means phrases we use in special situations, like agreeing, disagreeing, inviting, apologizing, accepting, refusing, etc. So when we think about the lesson, we normally have two aims, the main aim and the sub-aim, one of which is taken from systems and the other is taken from skills. For example, if we've got a reading lesson, and of course on the sideways we pre-teach some vocabulary, then the main aim would be students will have practiced reading for gist and for detail, and the sub-aim would be students will have learned the new words or will have increased the vocabulary on topic blah 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 blah. Whereas, for instance, if you teach a new tense and present it via a dialogue, a recorded dialogue, then the main aim will be students will have learned the MPF of present perfect, and the sub-aim would be students will have practiced listening for general understanding, or something like that. Yeah? So, look, here are the examples. Yeah. Then, when you've identified your aim, you should consider the content, and of course, that arises a huge question of sources of material. Doubtlessly, the main source is your course book, workbook, and all that stuff. Yeah. By the way, here I'd like to voice my opinion on the tendency gaining more and more popularity nowadays, which is called learning without the course book. Yeah. So I reckon it's only useful and necessary in some special cases. For instance, when you're teaching a student with special needs, be it a sportsman who needs to communicate with his or her coach, or be it a mentally handicapped student. In these cases, of course, you'll have to use tailored course made by yourself. In the vast majority of other cases, you need course book, which ensures recycling, which ensures logics, and which makes the teacher's life 100 times easier. The next source of information is, of course, the plethora of grammatical and vocabulary books. Grammatical ones are more popular, yeah, things like Grammarway, Roundup, Oxford Grammar. But there are also vocabulary books such as English Vocabulary in Use, Oxford Word Skills, etc. So to get the information from these, you look at the topic you're teaching and find this topic in the book of approximately your student's level and look at the suggested exercises. Yeah. Next, of course, you can use other course book. You take the course book of the same level and find the same or similar topic to look for information. And of course, probably the most popular source of information these days is the net. The problem here is that the information on the net is virtually boundless, and if you don't understand really clearly what exactly you need, you'll end up drowned in the piles of exercises it will suggest you. So for instance, it's not a good idea to just write the present continuous in the inquiry line in the search engine. Yeah. You need to write something like online exercises for present continuous elementary level. Then it's gonna give you more or less what you need. There are lots of extremely useful sites, such as Quizlet, Wordwall, or learning apps, where you can both use the downloaded exercises or create your own ones. And there are also sites like Busy Teacher with tons of ideas, and TWEE, which can help you make your own exercises quickly and easily. So as long as you have found the materials, the exercises, yeah, then you should think of interaction patterns. These include teacher class, yeah, when you stand in front of the class and give some information or task for all the students simultaneously. Then it has teacher student, when, for example, you are asking one student and all the others are just listening. Then there is student and students. For example, this is the case when one student is making a speech and all the others are listening. And then there is student-student, when they are working in pairs or groups. So of course, the choice of interaction patterns depends on a huge number of things. The only advice I can give you here is, when you've made your lesson plan, write the interaction pattern next to each exercise and think, look at how many T's you've got. If you feel there are too many, there is probably some room for improvement. Probably you should think about replacing the individual exercise or the whole class discussion with the pair or group work. The next question I'd like to consider today is ways of recording. So, of course, there are plans suggested by the CELTA course, a little easier ones suggested by the TESOL. If you work at Russian school, you of course know the template suggested by Federal National Standard, yeah? And you can simply make your own notes. Now on to a more careful consideration for each. So this is the template suggested by CELTA. Yeah? Look, so you write the class profile first, yeah? Then you write assumptions, what learners already know about the topic you're gonna explain. You write the list of material. Here is the main aim we've discussed, yeah? The sub-aim, personal aim. On the sideway, what is the personal aim? This is something you are planning to do with yourself as a teacher. This is the room for your professional development. For instance, you know that your instructions are usually too wordy, or you know that you tend to use whole classwork too much. So you might say to set your personal aim as practice making short instructions, giving short instructions, or practice organizing pair work, and something like that, yeah? When you try to anticipate what problems your students might have and how you're gonna solve them. Next, so for each activity, you think about what stage of lesson is it? How much time it's gonna take? What's the aim of this particular activity, of this particular stage? This interaction pattern we've talked about, procedure, how exactly they are going to do it. Yeah? So here is an example. The stage is pre-reading. The aim is to encourage interest. What they are going to do is look at the picture and try to predict what the text is about and share their ideas with each other in pairs. So the interaction pattern is student-student, and it's going to take 3 minutes. So this is what the SALTA template suggests. Next one is used in a TESOL course. So again, look, you've got the main aim, the sub-aim, yeah, assumptions, expected problems and solutions, the list of material, and then there's a number of stages, yeah, warm-up, presentation, practice production, plenary, this is like feedback, homework, and flexi stage. Flexi stage is the extra activity which you're going to use provided you have some time in the end of the lesson. This is TESOL plan. And this is what Russian national system suggests. Yeah, the aim, the main aim, what technologies you use, what results you plan, subject results, like what the student's gonna learn, intersubjective results, like, practicing, working with reference materials or practicing organizing your time, personal results. Then the terms you're gonna to rely on, the terms you're gonna to teach within the lesson, how you're gonna control your students, and homework. And here, look, we have lesson stage, what the teacher does, what the students do, yeah? Methods and technologies, and universal studying actions the students learn. Yeah. So this is it. And now, before we finish, a rather interesting question. Why at all bother record your lesson plan? Why not just have it in your head? Well, first, I'd like to highlight that it's perfectly okay to just have your lesson plan in your head, especially for the experienced teachers. The more lesson plans you have written in your life, the easier it is for you to make one up in your head and keep it there. But even if you've got 15, 20 years of experience, if you have problems with planning a certain lesson, take your time, sit down and write the plan. It's almost guaranteed that as soon as you start writing it, it will get much, much easier. So what I'm saying is, the more experienced you are, the braver you can be at not writing your plan. The main aim of writing your plan is to make your brain work in the right direction, to teach your brain plan your lesson quickly without writing it down. But even you have already got lots of practice in that, if you're struggling with certain lesson, try writing it down. It's almost sure to become way easier. So, sorry for taking up so much of your time. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to write them down in the comments, and check out the description to look at the whole lesson plans in CELTA template, in TESOL template, and in the Russian National System lesson template. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.